Hi, welcome to this video. Do you want to enhance the security on your Wi-Fi network? Well, you can with the Radius server built into your UniFi Network Controller. So if you want to enhance your UniFi network with Radius, then keep watching and I will explain and show you how. So let's go into the PC now and take a look. Now here we are, and I've logged into my UniFi Network Controller and I've clicked on the Wi-Fi networks option here. So as you'll see, I've got my Wi-Fi network, which is currently set up to accept pre-shared keys for the passwords to access the Wi-Fi network. So before we get started quickly, what we will do is set up your Wi-Fi network so that you give out separate usernames and passwords to your users and or devices so that they are able to connect to your Wi-Fi network using the Radius server facility in your UniFi Network Controller, thus improving the security without the need to give out shared Wi-Fi passwords or pre-shared keys. Just for information, this guide is based on using UniFi OS version 3.2.12 and UniFi Network Controller version 8.0.28, as you'll see here. Finally, I will also put chapters in this video so that you can skip steps if you need to. For example, if you already have, say, a VLAN that you already want to use for your Wi-Fi network and Radius option, rather than having to set up a new VLAN, as I'm going to go into details about adding a new VLAN and Wi-Fi network in this video as well, just to make things complete. So if you want to skip those steps, you can do using the chapters facility. So that's out of the way, so let's get started. So as I said, I'm in the Wi-Fi option in my UniFi Network Controller. What we're going to do is create new Wi-Fi network. So click on Create New. Then in the name, give it a name. In this case, I'm going to call it 10, as in numerical 10. For the password box, you leave this blank. So don't put anything in the password box there. For the network, you leave that as default. Even though we're going to be putting users in various VLANs, for the network option, you need to still leave that as default. Now for broadcasting APs, I only have one access point, so hence why you can only see one there, and that is already ticked. If you want to apply it to multiple broadcasting access points, then make sure that those boxes are ticked as well. Under the advanced option, we're going to select manual, and for the private pre-shared keys, leave that unticked. Hotspot portal should be unticked. Wi-Fi band, now in this case I'm only going to be connecting my users and devices to the 5 GHz band, so I'm going to untick 2.4 GHz. However, if you have devices that connect to the 2.4 GHz and or 5 GHz and in some cases 6 GHz, then tick the relevant box to which you want to have your clients connect to. Band steering, leave that unticked, and as you can see it's also greyed out slightly. Hide Wi-Fi name, blank. Client device isolation, blank. Proxy ARP, blank. BSS should be ticked, and the options under BSS transition, leave those as unticked. 802 DTIM period, leave that as automatic, so that should be ticked. Minimum data rate control auto, MAC address filter unticked, Radius MAC authentication unticked. Now for security protocol, you need to change that from WPA2 to WPA2 Enterprise. So select WPA2 Enterprise. Now for radius profile, leave that as default in brackets UDM Pro. However, if you're using different network controller, it should say default and then in brackets a different name. So leave the radius profile as default. Radius server should be ticked. However, it's ticked and enabled and it's also grayed out, so that's fine. Radius server pre-shared key. Now what you need to do here is enter a pre-shared key. So create your own pre-shared key, and in this example for testing purposes I'm going to be typing in pre-shared key as dog cat. However, just make sure your radius server pre-shared key is actually a bit more secure than this, but this is for testing purposes on this video. So once you've entered the pre-shared key, you don't need to change any further options, so you can click Add Wi-Fi Network. Then once you've added the Wi-Fi network, it will take you back to the list of Wi-Fi networks and you should see that Wi-Fi network, what you've just created in the list, and under security it should say WPA Enterprise, as this one does here for Wi-Fi network number 10. Then when we've created the Wi-Fi network, we need to go and select networks. So it's the next option down in the menu. And here it's taken us into the list of VLANs and networks that we have. And as you can see, we've got default SEC, which is the security network, IoT for Internet of Things, and PBX, which is the private branch exchange, and that's for telephones. So if you want to create a new VLAN here, you can do. So what we'll do is to show you how to do this. Obviously, if you don't need another VLAN created, then you can skip this step. But what we need to do is click on Create New Virtual Network. Then in the network name, we'll call it Radius, just for testing purposes. The router should be selected as the default, which is route 01 in my case, which is the UDM Pro. Gateway IP subnet, we can leave that as auto scale network, unless of course you want to change the IP address range, in which case untick this and enter the IP address range that you want. So moving down, you'll see that the gateway IP is 192.168.2.1 and we have the IP range of 192.168.2.6 to 192.168.2.254. So what this will do is, once we've finished, is put the radius clients for Wi-Fi radius clients specifically into this new VLAN. However, as I said, you don't have to create a new VLAN, you can just put them in one of your current VLANs that you already have. So moving down, under Advanced, we're going to select Manual, and for the VLAN ID you can see that we have VLAN ID 2, which has been automatically created by our UDM Pro. Content filtering, you can of course select whichever option you wish. In this case I'm selecting none. And for multicast DNS, I'm going to untick this because I don't need multicast DNS. However, if you use such things as Chromecast, for example, then leave the multicast DNS option ticked. And then moving down, for DHCP, we should have DHCP mode set as DHCP server in normal circumstances. So once we've done that, we'll click Add. This has now added a new network, and as you'll see in the list of networks we have the first one, which is the default network, and then the second one is for Radius with VLAN ID 2, and this is the one that we'll be using to put the Radius Wi-Fi clients into in most cases. So once we've done that, what we need to then do is go to Profiles, so select Profiles from the menu. Then in the profile screen, what you need to do is from the top four options. You should have Ethernet ports, Wi-Fi speed limits, radius and IP groups. What you need to do is select radius. Then under radius you'll see that we have default for the name. Authentication servers, it's the UDM Pro. However, this will obviously be different depending on which UniFi controller you're using. So what we'll need to do is click on default anywhere on that line so that we can go in and edit the information. So now that we're in the radius server information, which is the default one, you'll see that we have radius server ticked, so it's ticked for enable. Under secret, we have the secret entered as dogcat, which we did in the previous Wi-Fi settings, if you recall. So make sure that that secret is set to the same as what you created under the pre-shared key in the Wi-Fi network when we created that. Then for radius assigned VLAN support, under wired networks, we will leave that as unticked, but for wireless networks, make sure you tick that so that it is enabled. Under radius settings, for the authentication port, you need to enter 1812, and then for the accounting port you need to enter 1813. So these are the port numbers to which it will communicate for authentication and accounting purposes. Under the interim update interval, you need to select this as 60 seconds. Now, as you can see, I've already got 60 seconds in there. Then under tunneled reply, you need to tick that box to enable it. Then under radius users, here under this section is where we're going to create the individual user accounts for our wireless clients and or wireless devices. So this is the important bit where we give each user and device its own username and password to be able to connect to our wireless network. So click on create new radius user. That will then bring up a box on screen for create new radius user. We'll give our first user its own username. So in this case, I'm going to be entering the username as Tim for testing purposes, and under password, give your user its own password. So a unique password which you can just create yourself or use a password generator. In this case, for testing purposes, I'm going to be entering Tim123 and then make it a bit longer by entering 456. So we have Tim123456 as our test password against username Tim. Now under VLAN ID, this is where you select the VLAN that you want to put this user into by default. So whenever that user logs in to the network using this username and password, they will automatically be put into the VLAN that you specify here. So in this case, we just created the VLAN under networks, and if you recall, the VLAN ID was 2. So we'll select 2 for the VLAN ID. Then under the tunnel type option, you need to select number 13. So number 13 should be virtual LANs and in bracket VLAN. So make sure that tunnel type is selected as 13 for virtual LANs. Then under tunnel medium type, you need to select number 6, which should be 802 and includes all 802 media plus Ethernet canocial format. So make sure that tunnel medium type is selected as number 6 and it should be 802. So once you've done that, click create user. This has now created our first radius user, as you'll see here under the list of radius users. So we have radius user called Tim, and it will be put into VLAN 2, and the tunnel type is 13, and the tunnel medium type is number 6. So once you've finished creating all of your radius users, you can then click Apply Changes. Just to let you know, you can go back into this radius server option at any time and add or remove further radius users. So once you've created those additional users or remove them, you just click Apply Changes. So let me just show you this as an example. So what we would do is go back into radius, select the default radius server, and then click Create New Radius User. Or obviously, if you want to remove a radius user, click on the name and then click Remove when the pop-up window appears. So we just cancel that, and we've just created the radius user. Once you have added or removed radius users, or for example, if you've changed their default VLAN for any of the existing users, what you will need to do is go back into your Wi-Fi network setting. So let's do this now by clicking Wi-Fi. Then under Wi-Fi network, what you need to do is click on Manage. Then select your Wi-Fi network to which your radius users are being applied to. And what you need to do is click on Pause. Then once you have finished adding or removing or changing any radius users, you can then start your Wi-Fi network running again. So for example, you need to click Pause, confirm pausing the Wi-Fi network with the pause window and button. Then go back into Profiles, Radius, click Default, and then add or remove various radius users. Then go back into Wi-Fi, select Manage, tick the Wi-Fi network, and then click Resume. Then click Done. Now what I've found is when adding or removing or changing users, it doesn't actually apply the settings to the Wi-Fi network. So for example, if I change the user and put them in a different VLAN, it seems to put them in the original old VLAN unless you specifically go into the Wi-Fi network, pause it and unpause it. Once you've done that, it will then put them in the new updated VLAN that you've moved them to. So make sure that if you change anything in radius, that you go to the Wi-Fi network afterwards, pause it and then restart the Wi-Fi network. Obviously, this will cause your Wi-Fi clients to probably disconnect from the Wi-Fi network, but unfortunately, I don't seem to have found any way around this. Unless you specifically know, then do leave me a comment against this video. Otherwise, you'll just have to pause the Wi-Fi network and then unpause it once you've made changes to radius clients. So now that we've done that, we'll go ahead and log in on my mobile phone using radius to test this to make sure we've been put into the correct VLAN and the radius facility is working correctly. So I'll just bring up my mobile phone screen on my PC now so that you can see what's going on. So here we are, and on screen I'm in my Android mobile phone and I'm in the settings option, as you'll see. So what we'll do is click on Wi-Fi, enable Wi-Fi, and then we'll wait for the list of Wi-Fi networks to appear. And here you can see we have number 10, which is the Wi-Fi network we created. So we'll click on this. So on screen at the moment, unfortunately, you can't actually see it due to the app restrictions. But what I will do is recreate the actual screen that appears. And what we're going to do is under EAP method, we have automatically set as PEAP. Then the next option is Phase 2 Authentication. We have MSCHAP v2. Then for CA certificate, currently it's set to Not Selected. What you need to do is click on this and select None. Then under Identity, what we'll do is enter our radius user name that we created for our radius user in UniFi. So this was, of course, Tim. Then under the next box for anonymous identity, we'll leave that as blank. Then under the password, we'll enter the password that we created for our radius user Tim, which was TIM123456. Then what you need to do is select the tick at the top right hand corner of the screen, and this should then connect you to the Wi-Fi network, and it should automatically put us into VLAN ID 2. So let's just check this by clicking the I information. Scroll down, and as you'll see, we have an IPv4 address as 192.168.2.101. And if you recall, we set up the network and it was for VLAN ID 2, and it did have a 192.168.2 IP range. So I can confirm that this has actually allocated us to VLAN ID 2 correctly using our radius username and password. So rather than just entering any pre-shared password or Wi-Fi password which is given out to multiple people or devices, we now have separate usernames and passwords which are required to connect to our Wi-Fi network, thus making it a little bit securer than what it would be using one password for the same multiple devices or users. So that's how easy it is to set up radius in the UniFi Network Controller. So I hope you like this video. Keep a lookout as further videos are coming again soon. Don't forget to hit the notify and subscribe buttons. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye for now.